Michael Scott is unironically one of the best depictions of how a fear of loneliness and abandonment can manifest in a way that hurts both yourself and others. One of the earliest memories we ever get of Michael is actually from his childhood appearance in a TV show, where he says that his biggest wish in life is that he wants to be married and have 100 kids so he can have 100 friends and so that no one can ever say no to being his friend. And this really becomes the crux of his character throughout the whole series. This isn't revealed until the middle of the series, and you can actually see the rest of the characters understand Michael even more and why he has become the way he is because of this. He is a deeply lonely character, and we know that this likely started in his childhood. His parents went through a divorce and his mother remarried a man called Jeff, and Michael mentions on multiple times that Jeff never really made Michael feel that welcome in the family, that Michael also always felt a little bit ostracized from his own family. We also know that Michael was very likely bullied as a child. He was often made fun of, and so he grows up into this adult version of himself who is so desperate to be liked, so desperate to have friends, so desperate to be a part of something. And this manifests in what we know about him as a salesman and as a worker, because Michael Scott is introduced as kind of this useless, incompetent manager, but it is revealed that he was, at the time, the top salesman of Dunder Mifflin. And this makes sense. Michael is a character who is desperate for people to like him, and so he has spent his life learning what everyone wants to hear. He has been very good at being able to actually sell himself to people when it really counts. And that makes him a great salesman. It makes him really good at pushing other people. But it doesn't make him a particularly good manager, because someone who wants to tell someone everything they want to hear is not equipped to lead people. He wants everyone to be his friend. He wants to make sure that he can actually sell himself to everyone. And that is not the qualities that are needed in someone who is in a leadership position, trying to manage a group of people where at its very core, that role is something that cannot please everyone. You are never going to be able to be the good guy in every single situation. Whereas as a salesman, you can. And so Michael becomes this kind of idiotic manager who doesn't really know what he's doing and is much more happy just kind of like appeasing everyone and being friends with everyone. And it makes sense because he wants to be liked. But the problem for someone like Michael, who has this deep-seated fear of abandonment and people leaving him, is that when you are so desperate to be liked, but are so terrified of people leaving you, you tend to idolize and try to befriend people who it won't hurt if they leave you. People who you are aware will leave you, so there's no surprises there, aka terrible people. Michael's infatuation with Ryan is a perfect example of this. Michael knows that Ryan is cooler than him. He knows that Ryan is out of his league, and yet he is desperate for Ryan to like him, to accept him, because it means then that Michael is a part of something greater than himself. It almost means that he's kind of one. But at his very core, Ryan sucks. And so Ryan doesn't accept Michael. Ryan doesn't like Michael. Ryan always kind of abandons Michael. And Michael is never seemingly put off by this. He takes Ryan back every single time because it's not a surprise to him. Because he expected to be abandoned by someone like Ryan, because Ryan is fundamentally out of his league. And we see this in a similar way with Todd Packer. Todd Packer is a character who sucks. He is the worst of humanity. He is awful. He makes horrible jokes, racist, sexist, homophobic, everything you could possibly think of. Todd Packer will make that joke. But Michael, when he met him, thought that Todd Packer was this cool guy. He idolized him in a way. Michael describes the times they had back in the day in the office together were the wildest, coolest times he had ever experienced. It was so funny. It was so hilarious. And this is because Todd Packer is a character who is cooler than Michael as Michael met him, but accepted Michael and took him in. And that's really the key thing here, because no matter what Packer says, Michael isn't going to analyze it too greatly because he is in this friendship with Packer, because he doesn't want to lose Packer, because this is a friendship that feels solid to him, that has actually stood the test of time and has come back to him each time in a way that feels better. Michael earned Todd Packer's friendship, and so he doesn't want to lose it. We see this behavior reflected in his relationships with Carol. He went out with her for, I think it was 9 dates, and then proposed to her in public in front of a group of people that they didn't really know. And this was largely in part because Michael was idolizing the idea of being in a relationship and being in love with someone rather than the actual person who was beside him. If it meant that he wasn't alone and that he was married, that was okay. That was enough. And we see this play out even further in Michael's relationship with Jan, which is a very abusive relationship. Jan is Michael's boss when they first make out. They first kind of spend the night together without sleeping together, but they do make out. And Michael, inappropriately, relentlessly kind of tries to pursue her after this, even though Jan is very much like, no more, no more, no more. And then Jan starts sending him mixed signals, because the second Michael starts to pull away, Jan starts to pull back. They officially get together. Jan is fired from her job, and they are in this very toxic, trapped relationship with each other for a few seasons. Michael admits to multiple characters on multiple occasions that he doesn't like Jan, that he doesn't like being with Jan. He tells the group of girls when they're out on their little girls trip to the mall that he actively wants to break up with Jan, that he doesn't enjoy being with her, that she makes him do things that he is not comfortable with. He breaks up with her, but ultimately gets back together with her when she reveals her boob job, which Jan even later admits that she finds incredibly uncomfortable. And she did it for herself. She's very open about that. But in part, because of the timing, it does make you wonder whether she did it just to get Michael back. Because Jan, like Michael, is an inherently lonely character. And so they kind of feed into each other. These two people who would rather be together and miserable than alone. And there are moments you can see why they stick together. When Michael starts to have a breakdown and he doesn't want to tell Jan about their actual financial issues, he runs away. And Jan does come to him. And she admits, no matter how badly I treat you or what I'm going through, you are there for me. And that's the crux of their relationship. It's not about how they treat each other. It's about whether the person is still there. Even after they break up, Michael is terrified of going back to Jan. He has a whole thing with Holly later on where he says, I don't want to be with Jan. I'll go back to Jan and I hate Jan. He does not want to be around this woman, but he can't almost help it because he is desperate for a family. He's desperate for a marriage. When Jan gets pregnant during their relationship, and then Michael finds out later, Michael inserts himself into this narrative of being a father because, again, it didn't matter who was next to him as long as it was someone, as long as he could be a father and have a family. Michael attaches himself to all of these horrible people, and it makes him a very contradictory character because he is someone who wants to be liked and wants to do good, but goes about it in the most insane methods. He is oftentimes offensive and borderline abusive, and all of it comes from a good place of trying to make everyone feel welcome, but it doesn't matter. It still very much is offensive. And each time he gets told, no, this isn't right, he plays it off and no, it's just a joke, it's just a joke, I'm just trying to make you guys laugh. Because at the end of the day, he just wants them to laugh at him, but this is all he's learned how to do. But Michael adores his employees, and he wants to show them appreciation wherever he can. This is shown through the Dundies, a whole night that he has concocted and made to celebrate his employees. And yes, it gives him a chance to be a bit of a showman, but the night is for them. Michael is the first one, before even Jim, to believe in Pam's art. He is the first one to make her believe that she's good and can do it. In one of the worst episodes on the whole show, Michael promises a bunch of third graders that he would pay for their entire college education when he's a millionaire. Not because he was trying to make a false promise, but because he genuinely wanted to help these kids. It was completely out there and completely the wrong method, but his intentions were good. When he is reprimanded for making homophobic jokes about Oscar, he is immediately horrified when he finds out Oscar is actually gay, and he tries to make Oscar feel included and welcome in arguably the worst way possible by forcing them to kiss. It's not a good outcome, but his intentions were to be inclusive. And when Michael meets Holly, everything changes. This is someone who he thinks is genuinely cool and really funny, but on the same level as him. He doesn't idolize Holly, but he is in awe of her, and they fall in love very quickly, and when they break up, it is Michael who is determined to make it known that this wasn't a fling, that they were something special. For the first time in his life, he is okay with someone leaving him because he is confident that eventually they will return. This shows such growth from when we met him. Michael Scott is a character who started the show wanting as many friends as possible. He spent 7 seasons trying to gain that friendship, and he ended it leaving them all for the one person who made it all worth it. Because he had finally learned that the truest friends you'll ever have isn't measured in quantity. It's measured in the fact that they will always be there for you and always come back when it really matters.